If you have 500, 750, a million, 3 million, 5 million saved for retirement, but you don't have any clear income plan, it is likely that you're doing things backwards. And see, the problem here isn't just confusion. The problem here is you're one bad market away from eroding the funds that you have for retirement. You're one tax decision away from eroding the funds that you have at the end of your life, the funds that you have available to you. In this video, I'm going to show you exactly how you can structure your income plan so that you know how much you can take out each and every month, each and every year before you even think about your investments. We work with people who have done a great job at building that nest egg, at saving. Maybe they've built 500,000, a million, 3 million, 5 million. And almost all of them have the exact same approach in this accumulation phase of life. They've built the portfolio, they've picked some funds, maybe they've worked with an advisor, but when we ask them one simple question, how much can you actually pay yourself in retirement every month, every year? They don't have a clear answer. And so today we're gonna fix this so that if you're in the same situation, you know how much you can actually pull from that portfolio. During this accumulation phase of life, most people are taught to focus on returns, picking various investments, and trying to outperform the market or the said benchmark. And ultimately, retirement doesn't work like that. Why? Because in retirement, you aren't living on beating the market. You aren't living on picking various investments. Rather, you're living on income. And when you build a portfolio first that's focused on returns, that's focused on trying to maybe beat that market, and you try and figure income out later as a secondary thought, you're essentially guessing. And this is why things like a market drop feel stressful. When inflation increases, it feels stressful because see, there's no structure behind what you're actually pulling out each and every month. There's no structure behind that income. And so let's flip the script here. Step one should not be, how should I invest? Rather, step one needs to be, what income do I need and where will it come from? Your portfolio should support the plan, not define it. So start with a real number, not a guess, not a range. How much do you actually need each and every month? Let's assume that it's $6,000. Once you've identified that number, it's important to look at how much do you actually need? How much of that $6,000 is essentials? And then look at lifestyle. Why? Because these can be much different. Maybe part of your lifestyle is you love to travel, but each and every year you take a different trip, and in turn, each and every year, your travel expenses are much different. So break those down, essentials and lifestyle. And this matters because you also need to know that if the market were to collapse, if we were to go into a market downturn, how much do you actually need to live? Then we want to factor in things like longevity. What if you live another 5 to 10 years? Inflation. What if inflation increases by 1%, 2%, 3%? What if your Social Security benefit gets reduced? These are things that we want to factor in to how much you actually need on a given month and on a given year. The next thing we want to do is look at our income. We need to map this out. And for most people, income in retirement consists of their Social Security benefit, maybe a pension while those aren't as prevalent anymore, and then withdrawals from their various investments. So let's assume that you have a Social Security benefit that covers $2,500. This leaves us with a $3,500 gap, again, assuming that our expenses are in the amount of $6,000 per month. So where does this $3,500 come from? Well, this income gap needs to come from your portfolio. It needs to come from your investments. And so see, this is where the allocation of your portfolio comes into play. Again, your portfolio should no longer be designed to grow aggressively or beat the S&P 500 or the said benchmark. Rather, your portfolio needs to be structured in such a way where it can support that $3,500 gap without running the risk of running out of money at the end of your plan. And see, this is where a lot of plans and income plans can start to fall apart, because what happens if the market drops by 20%? Do you keep withdrawing that same $3,500 a month? Do you adjust it? Do you panic? Do you sell? What is it that you do? If the market drops early on in retirement in the first couple of years, this is what we call sequence of returns risk. And this is one of the biggest risks to your retirement and your retirement income. If you're retired and your plan doesn't account for this, there's no stress test in your plan, and your plan can't handle a bad market early on, then it's not really a plan. And so now looking at our investments, now we can talk about those because now we have a clear understanding of how much income we need in retirement. And so the next thing we want to look at is our investment strategy. And we want to break these into buckets. Bucket number one being our liquidity bucket. These are funds that we need in the next 0 to 3 years, call it. And these funds should be invested in a more stable, preservation-focused allocation. And then we look at our next bucket, bucket number two, our defensive bucket. These are funds that we need in the next 3 to 5, 7 years. And these funds should be invested in dividend-paying stocks or bonds, again, in defensive investments. And then lastly, bucket number three. Bucket number three is our growth bucket. And theoretically, these are funds that we don't need in the next 8+ years. And so we're invested largely in stocks, focused on growth over a long period of time. And see, using these various strategies, using the bucket investment strategy, using time segmentation, using an income-focused allocation allows for your investments to be aligned with your income timeline, not just sitting in a generic allocation or portfolio that was previously focused on accumulation pre-retirement. And so if you take anything away from this video, a portfolio that's built without an income plan is simply a pile of investments. But a portfolio built around the income that you need, that's where confidence comes from. And that's when you stop guessing. That's when you stop guessing around what happens if the market drops by 10%, 20%. What happens if inflation increases by 1, 2, 3%? What happens if I live another 5 or 10 years? Will I have enough to make it through retirement? Again, it all starts with that income plan. So if you're 5 to 10 years out from retirement or already retired, and you're not 100% sure if your plan will hold up in a downturn, if your plan will hold up if inflation increases, if your plan will hold up if you live for another 5 or 10 years, I offer a retirement income stress test, and we'll walk through just that. We'll walk through, hey, how much income do you actually need in retirement, and clearly identify that. We'll go through your current portfolio and how this portfolio actually performs under pressure if you're taking money from it on a monthly or annual basis. There's a link in the description. I invite you to schedule a time to talk, and I can't wait to see you there. Thank you so much.